I'm your host, Kinetic, and you're watching GameOnEnd. Hello, today we're going to be taking a look at Bagnon, plus some extra add-ons that add even more functionality and features. As always, we're going to be using add-on control panel to enable and disable as we go, so let's get started. Okay, to start with, we're just going to take a look at Bagnon itself. Okay, so we can see here by default, the first setting is an all-in-one bag type look here. We have the buttons to show or hide your actual bags if you need to swap those out. We have some cleanup options here. You can left click to resort your items quickly, and then when you're at the bank, you can right click to deposit reagents at the bank. Do note that you need to have the reagent bank purchased before that will work. And then we've got search, which we can click here and search for any of the items here. We can search for any items here by name. Okay, and it will dim everything out and just highlight what you've searched for. In addition to being able to search by name, you can also do some more advanced filtering. I haven't been able to find a complete list of all the things that you can search by, but you can play around with it. Things like searching for armor will highlight just any gear that you have in your bags. You can search by armor type. So this will include any items that are leather type armor. It'll also include anything that's considered a leather trade skill. So like these dragon scales are categorized by the auction house as leather items. You can also search for like elemental items. You can also search for consumables. So you can play around with that. There's a lot of unique things that I've been able to find that I could search for. But again, I don't have a complete list of everything. Okay, down here on the bottom left, we have a few options here, including right-clicking to toggle our bank, which I haven't visited yet since I installed this, so it's going to show as blank. But the first time that you do visit the bank, that will fill up, and then you can move that around wherever you like. And then you also have shift-click to open the options menu. You also have the options button here, so I figure since you have this option here that you don't need both. So if you open it, first thing you can do is hide that options button because we can still get to this with shift click. And we have some basic options, including locking the frame so that you don't accidentally drag it around. Now Bagnon comes by default with a bag brother, which is a separate module that you can disable if you have something else that's keeping track of your quantities. But you see here in the bottom of the tooltip, it says that I have 1 of this item in my bags. And here we have 5 of this item in my bags. If you're using something else to track that, such as Altaholic or Trade Skill Master, then you can disable that. And that will get rid of that out of the thing. But for now, we'll go ahead and leave that on. And then you can also include guild bank quantities. If you don't have full access to the guild bank, then I would leave that off. But if you have an alt that the guild bank is yours and you own all the items, then it might be handy to include that guild bank count. Okay, and then you have some other more detailed options here, like blinking if you do a search for an item. You also have this option to show default bags if you have something hidden from here. And then you can also choose to have these options be character specific, in which case you'd have to set this up for each character. Okay, then we have the automatic displaying of the bag. Now this just determines whether this automatically opens up whenever you are doing any of these things. So if you visit the bank, the guild bank, auction house, so on and so forth. And then you can automatically have it close when you leave the bank or the vendor, when you enter combat or enter a vehicle. Okay, now we have the appearance of each frame. Okay, so to start with, we're looking at our default inventory here. We can disable that if we don't want to use a specific one. And then here's where we control these options, what we have available here. So we can show or hide our money or the sorting button or the bag toggle. And then we have the appearance of this. Okay, so you can adjust the background color here. We can see that that's adjusting, and then we have the opacity. All right, and then we have the option to show the bag breaks here. Then we have the border color and opacity here. And then you can have this move up or down in layers. If you want other add-ons to show up on top of this, then you can move this lower. But if you always want this to be on top of anything else you have going, including like weak auras or anything like that, then leave it at high. Okay, and then you have the scale of the items here, the opacity of the items, the spacing between the items, and then the overall scale of the bags. So if you want to shrink that down at all. And then you can adjust how many columns here. So by default, it's 8 wide. But if you want to make that skinnier or wider. And then you have all the same options here for the bank window, the void storage, and guild bank. Okay, then we have generic color settings here. We have the glow around the edges of quality of items, which you can crank up if you have trouble seeing items in your bag. Okay, then we have this option here, which changes things that you can't equip to red, which is helpful for clearing your bags. We also have quest items. We have flashing of new items. And then we also have marking of poor items, which helps you to know which items quickly you can sell off to a vendor. Okay, and then we have the option for the background of the inventory items, which when we have some clear space, we can take a look at again. Okay, so by default, the Bagnon interface does most of what people want out of their inventory, but now we're going to take a look at some cool extra add-ons that add some quality of life features and some extra functionality. Okay, so the first one we're going to take a look here is this add-on called Bagnon Facade, and what that does is lets us use the add-on Mask to adjust how the appearance of the icons looks. So let's try that one. Okay, so we can see here now that we have both Mask and Bagnon Facade installed, we have the ability to adjust how these inventory slots and the items in them look. So we'll bring up the options for Mask. And we've gone over Mask in a previous video, so I'll leave a link to that in the description if you'd like to check that out. So we're going to just be adjusting the settings for Bagnon itself. Now, of course, you can do different things for each portion of Bagnon if you like. We're just going to adjust it all together as one. Okay, so we can simply go down through here. Now I've installed a couple of additional skin packs. By default, you have a couple there, but you of course can install as many as you like and switch between them. Okay, and now we can see we've been able to adjust these buttons and make them look a little more zoomed in and a little bit easier to see what everything is. Cool, so now we have something that looks a little more unique and maybe matches the look of some of our other add-ons. So let's take a look at the next one. So in a previous video, we took a look at Scrap. So let's take a look at the Bagnon Scrap module. Okay, so now that we have Scrap installed, we can see that we've got a nice little border coloring and a coin icon here for anything in our bags that are considered junk. Okay, so let's take a look at the options here. Now, of course, we also did a video on Scrap previously, so I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. Now, you can set this up to show which items will be considered scrap, and then the visuals you have option here are to make these borders glow. You can see that turning off and on, and then the coin icon. Okay, and so now we can quickly just see the items that we want to click to sell off, or we can let Scrap sell automatically for us. Simple, but nice. The extra module that automates removing items as your bags fill up is called Scrap Cleaner. And all this does is takes a look at all of the items you currently have in your inventory that are marked as scrap. And when your bags are full, it will automatically delete the lowest value item that you have. So we'll see here when we loot a couple of mobs here how that works. So we see automatically this item was deleted to make room for another one. And now that there's a free space, it won't delete another item until our bags are full again. Okay, so we can see it deleted another item here. So it's basically just automatically clearing a spot for you without you having to hover over each thing and see which thing is worth the least. So let's take a look at the next one. Okay, so the next one we're going to take a look at here is called required level. So if we open up our inventory now, we can see that there's an extra little count and a redding out that's been added here. Now, what required level is doing is anything that you can use but you can't use yet, typically you would have to mouse over the item, and then we can see in the tooltip there, it says requires level 73. So if you are like me and you send over a bunch of gear for your character to, use as it levels up, then maybe your bags would be filled with a bunch of gear that you can equip at various levels. And if you are trying to find, okay, when can I equip these legs? The only way to see that would be to hover over each item and say, okay, 73. So if I were trying to sort these maybe to the top of my bags or whatever and do them by level that I can equip them, then I would have to, manually hover over each one and say, okay, I can use this item at 80 and this one at 73. So if I want to, have them in order there so I just know when I can use them, then I'd have to hover over each one to see that level. But now I can quickly just sort these in my bags without having to look at the tooltip, and if I had more items here I could just easily line them up by the ones I can equip the soonest and then the ones that the latest at the back of the bags, or however you like to sort that. But it's just a quick and easy way to see when you can do that. Now there's no options for this add-on, so you're kind of stuck with the position of the number, which can affect some of the add-ons we're going to take a look at next. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at item info. Okay, so item info is actually an add-on that comes in two variations. They're by the author Goldpaw, and you can find both versions on the Twitch desktop app. One version has all of the separate modules in one add-on. Now, that makes it nice if you're going to use more than one of the features and you only want one add-on to keep up to date. The other version has 4 separate modules that you need to install separately to get each feature by itself. So if there's only one of these features that you would like, then you might be better off just installing the single one. But if you're going to use more than one, then for sure get the item info. So if you want the individual ones, search for Bagnon BOE, Bagnon item level, Bagnon uncollected, and Bagnon garbage. If you want all of them in one, search for Bagnon item info. Okay, so all of these modules can be enabled or disabled by typing in /BIF enable or BIF disable and then the module's name. So we're going to start by taking a look at item level. Okay, so we can see right now that all of our gear does not show the current item level for it. If we refresh the bags, we now have in the top left corner the item level of each piece of gear in our bags. And you can see here with the difference of the required level to equip it versus the item level of it. Now those play together nicely and so far no problem. So let's try the next one. Okay, so we'll enable the BOE. Now this simply puts a BOE label on items. So we can see here that it's in the same spot as the required level for the item. It seems to choose smartly which one to show. If it's something that we can already equip, then there's no reason to show the required level, so it just shows the BOE tag. If it's still too low for us, then it doesn't show that it's a BOE, but it does show the required level. So this could be helpful for clearing out your bags, say if you're running old dungeons or something, and there's items that you do want to hang on to because you can equip them later. Then you won't see the BOE tag, and then anything that may not be of value to you to equip will just be marked with the BOE tag. So that's up to you on whether you want to run those two together or not. I don't really feel the need to see the BOE tag, so I would simply disable that one. And now we're back to a little bit cleaner icons. Okay, the next one is the garbage one. Now, all this does is goes through your items and grays them out in the same way that the search does here, right? That grays out items when you're doing a search. What this one does is grays out items that are considered garbage. Maybe our bags are full and we're trying to see something that we can toss to make extra space. Well, then anything that is a gray item will be dimmed out like this and makes it easier to identify things that you can toss. Now for me, I already use add-ons that clear out my bags automatically of gray items when my bags get full, which is another feature of Scrap, that you can have it automatically delete like the cheapest item when your bags do get full. So this one is not as beneficial to me, but if you don't use something like Scrap or something like that, then this could be very helpful for finding space to clear. The last one we will take a look at is the uncollected. Okay, so this last one adds the little purple eye icon on top of anything that we don't currently know the appearance of. This is helpful if we're just quickly looking for things that we can learn. It doesn't distinguish between armor types though, so a mail item we couldn't learn or a cloth item we couldn't learn. But if we have an alt that can equip those types, then we can mail those off to them and learn those on them. Otherwise, we may still just want to sell them off. If you use an add-on like Can I Mog It, then this is also not super necessary. But again, you can install each of these individually. So if there's only one of these that you really need, then you can just grab that one by itself. And if you're going to use a couple of these, then go ahead and get the full one that has all four together. Alright, so I hope that helps you to get this add-on both visually and functionally a little more dialed in, gets Bagnon working the way you'd like it to. As always, thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I hope to see you in the next one. That will do it for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, remember, pressing the like button is absolutely free. Subscribe and stay tuned for more Game on End.